Hey everyone, I'm Infinite Potatoes and I welcome you back to another Battlefront 2 video. Today we are diving into Princess Leia in Star Wars Battlefront 2. I'll be covering all of her abilities, her strong points and weaknesses, along with her strategies for beginners to advanced players to dominate the Battlefront with her. Remember, anything I mention in this video is subject to change at any time. I will put timestamps in the description so you can find your way through this video. But I'd suggest watching the whole video because you might learn something new. Princess Leia Organa returns back in Battlefront 2 with some new tricks up her sleeve when being compared from the first game. Leia in the first game was amazing once you knew how to use her. If you were good enough, you could easily hit 100 kill streaks with her. And I believe they brought that power from the first game straight into this one. I've already seen one streak that I believe is of 122 eliminations. So I know it is possible. Leia has 650 base health. She's equipped with her Fender pistol, which is seen in A New Hope. Already, two things that are different compared from the first game. Less health and a different blaster. I can see why the health value is different because it can regen in this game, but the pistol is an interesting choice on the EA and DICE's part, especially since this pistol has a secondary fire capability, such as the TL50 that Item Versio uses. I'll be going in depth with her pistol later in this video, so stay tuned. Now let's transition into Princess Leia's abilities. Leia is a very versatile hero that can outsnipe enemy snipers and defeat multiple enemies at closer quarters. Her abilities play a big part in being able to do that. Leia's first ability is the flash grenade. When you press the left bumper on console, Leia throws a flash grenade that is able to completely blind enemies, making it extremely easy for you as Leia to defeat them. This grenade is a bit different from the one that is available from the officer class. In fact, it resembles a flash grenade from the first game instead. In this game, the flash grenade explodes on impact, instead of it being like the officer class's flash grenade, where you press it the left bumper once, then you have to press it again to detonate it. The positives with Leia's flash grenade is that it gives you a better reward if you have good accuracy. If you can hit the enemy right on with the flash grenade, they'll be blinded for a while. Plenty of time for you to defeat them. One strategy I like doing with Leia is when you get too far away from your team and you're surrounded by enemies, you can easily chuck the flash grenade at the floor and they'll all get decently blinded. It's also super useful for Heroes vs Villains players, because when you blind an enemy, you're disabling 1/4 of the entire enemy team. Hopefully your team is good enough to jump on that opportunity and defeat them. Leia's second ability, or the middle ability, is the rapid fire ability. When activated by pressing the left and the right bumper at the same time, Leia switches out her Fender pistol to a heavily modified E11 blaster rifle. The E11 that Leia uses is extremely different from the one that is available for the Assault class. This E11 reminds me of Phasma's F11D Supersonic. The regular E11 has a slower fire rate that deals high damage per shot, but Leia's is completely opposite. This instead has extremely high fire rate with medium damage per shot. It also has a ton of recoil. This is obviously aimed for close quarter combat. Paired with the other abilities Leia has, this can be devastating towards a couple of enemies or an enemy hero. And the third ability Leia has is the squad shield ability. When activated by pressing the right bumper, Leia puts down a squad shield that protects her and her teammates that are in a close enough vicinity. This ability, surprisingly, is exactly the same as the squad shield from the first game. One difference between this one and the Battlefront 1 Leia's shield is that in Battlefront 1, Leia was actually able to shoot through the shield when she had the Trooper Bane active. But in Battlefront 2, no matter what firing mode or ability you have, you cannot shoot through the shield. Which, if you think about it, is completely fine. Because imagine having Leia camping inside of her shield at the back of the map shooting off heat-seeking secondary fires every 2 seconds. Now that would be absolutely disgusting. You can create many different strategies and tactics using Leia's shield. We'll be going over different tactics later in the video, but right now let's talk about Leia's Defender pistol. I already mentioned it a little bit, but now we're going to go in depth with this pistol as if I were doing a blaster guide. By the way, if you didn't know, I make blaster guides on my YouTube channel. Feel free to check those out. Anyways, let's talk about the statistics and firing pattern of Leia's Defender pistol. The Defender pistol is one of the few blasters in Battlefront 2 that burst fire. Burst firing is when you press the trigger and the blaster shoots out multiple blaster bolts. The Blurg has a similar mechanism. You can check out my video on that by pressing the info tab in the top right corner right now. This pistol is also like the Blurg. It has a fixed burst. What that means is that you can't speed up how fast you can burst your blaster. That's why we don't have the EE3 situation we had in the first game, because the devs decided to put a bursting speed cap, which personally, I don't really mind. This pistol has a quite high damage output. It is able to two-shot enemies. When I say that, I mean 2 bursts to defeat an enemy. So don't be afraid to get into the grit of the action because this pistol can pack a serious punch. Leia also has a heat-seeking secondary fire shot. To fire off the secondary fire of Leia's Defender pistol, you have to hold down the left trigger until it fires. So what this means is that there is no zooming in for a regular fire, but honestly it doesn't even matter. Most of the gameplay you'll be seeing in the background is with the secondary fire being used. Most people end up not even using the primary fire unless if you're caught in close quarter combat. The secondary fire on this pistol is crazy because of 2 reasons. One, it is a heat-seeking shot. What that means is it moves in different directions seeking heat until it finds its target and eventually eliminating them. And the second thing is, you can fire this shot off every 2 to 3 seconds. I mentioned this earlier, Leia is very versatile, and this secondary fire is why she's able to outsnipe enemy snipers. Now that we know everything we need to know about Leia's ability and blaster, we can get into strategies and tactics I like to use for Leia. The first tactic I'll go over is actually just the playstyle that I end up using every game. I have 2 different playstyles that I use for Leia. The first one is super aggressive, and the second one is for sniping, for long range maps where I can get the high grounds or see the enemy spawn. I use my sniping playstyle because you're not going to need to play aggressive if you can stay in the back away from danger. I'd use this playstyle as much as possible. This is great for long streaks with Leia, and whenever you don't have the opportunity to snipe, you'll have to play aggressive if you want kills. This is where you utilize Leia's abilities, the flash grenade, rapid fire, and squad shield. I personally like staying near my teammates and shield at all times. Just in case if I get overrun by enemies, I can retreat back to my shield and regenerate health. When you're pushing with Leia, don't hold back on her abilities. What you're going to want to do is use them as much as possible. The flash grenade is absolutely amazing, as I mentioned before. Feel free to use the timestamps in the description to go back to the abilities overview. But I love the flash grenade. You can use it whenever you're pushing. You can use it as a defensive tactic when you need to retreat. It's amazing. So yeah, just spam your abilities if you're playing aggressive. That's what I do in Galactic Assault. Not for heroes versus villains, it's a bit different. Because if you use the sniping method, yes, you can get a few kills and do some damage by spamming your secondary fire, but does it really help the team? In my opinion, to be an effective Leia player, you have to be in there leading your team to victory. Leia isn't as team oriented as she was in the first game, but you can still do wonders with her squad shield ability. If you simply place a squad shield near your teammates, it could group them together and you might be able to take out a whole wave of enemy heroes. That's of course depending on your team being good enough to figure out what they should do, like sticking together. If you're playing with friends, this will be essential as you can set up traps for the enemy team. For example, you could leave your shield out in the open, and you and your team could hide behind it about 25 meters away. Then you can get a friend as Han Solo to throw a detonite charge in the shield, so when the enemies walk through it, they'll be blown up out of the shield and right into your blaster fire unprepared. With Leia, you can create many memorable strategies to help your team take the win. Now, we're going to move on to what the star cards I personally like using. With Leia and any other hero, you can have 3 star card modifiers. My first pick for a star card is the For the Rebellion card. What this does when you have it equipped for Leia is that every time you defeat an enemy with her, she gets extra health back. But here's the trick, it doesn't just give you health. It can regenerate base health that you have already lost. You know that gray bar underneath your regular one? That one shows how much your max health can go back up to. And with this star card, you can actually gain your health back to full. I find that absolutely amazing for going on streaks. If you have your For the Rebellion star card maxed out to purple, you can gain 100 enemy health every time you defeat an enemy. That means you only need 6 kills and you can get back to full from 50 health. That is one of my favorite star cards in the entirety of Battlefront 2. The second star card I enjoy using is the Blinded star card. If you have the Blinded star card active, it buffs your flash grenade so that it has longer impact, leaving your enemies blinded for a bit longer. At the max rarity, you can make enemies become blind for up to 30% more than usual. Now, some people won't use this star card, but for someone who, like me, who actually uses the flash grenade a bunch because I'm always pushing, this is definitely worth a buy. And the final star card that I use for Leia is the High Spirit star card. What this does is it increases Leia's max health bar. For a character that is so squishy in health, I find this card essential. Leia only has 650 health, and when this star card is maxed out, you can have Leia at a permanent 750 health. Now that's amazing. 100 extra health could just save your team in a Heroes vs Villains lobby. Leia is a very underrated and underestimated hero in Star Wars Battlefront 2. You can use this to your advantage and dominate in the Battlefront. If you have any tips for Princess Leia, feel free to drop them in the comments section to help each other out. If this video helped you in any way, please drop a like as it helps support the channel and it helps for new people to see these videos. Speaking of new people, if this is your first video you're watching on my channel, welcome. I'm glad you're here, and if you subscribe, you can get notifications for all my upcoming videos. I'm Infinite Potatoes, and I'll see you on the Battlefront.